The Greg Kelly Show.
Pardon me. Hello. All right, enough debate stuff for now. Although I am curious, a lot of people are weighing in about how to handle this thing. Bill O'Reilly, Charlemagne, the DJ or whatever the hell he is. I like him. I don't like calling him the God, though. What the hell is up with that name? Charlemagne to God, G-O-D? Is that his last? It's crazy. I looked it up once. His name is like Alvin Smith. Charlemagne, the God. Who do you think you are? I understand you're very good at what you do, lots of money, all that stuff, success, mastery, but the God, that's a little bit much, don't we think? Hey, Curtis Sliwa, you know, he's going to be running for mayor and he's going to be awesome and we want him to beat Eric Adams. You know I'm not running, right? I can't do it. I don't have the time. And yeah, I just no. It's going to be Curtis. And he was looking at, you know, it's amazing that Eric Adams, he's not well scrutinized. You know, the media go and they jot down what he says, but they are not critical of it. And he will say outrageous things and they'll pretend that they're normal or they'll ignore the outrageous. Now, what you're about to hear from that silly speech yesterday, some of this is just overtly racist and wildly inappropriate. You don't do this kind of stuff. I mean, I've known for decades that Eric Adams is a out-and-out racist. Out-and-out racist. Totally. Hates white people. Yeah, I know he's got this white friend and that white friend. He's got a real problem with white people as a group. All right? And he has a great fondness, yes, for Minister Farrakhan. He used to moonlight. When he wasn't a Republican, he was a chauffeur. He was a chauffeur for Minister Farrakhan. And it wasn't just like he, you know, wanted to be a chauffeur and this guy happened to be his boss. No, he was all in on the messaging, on everything. He went out of his way to hang with that out-and-out satanic beast, Farrakhan. All right, Eric, tell us, you uneducated fool, what we need to know about education. Cut 5.
The reason Chancellor Banks and his team wanted to change the books that our children read, because the authors do not look like them, do not know their narratives, and do not appreciate the diversity that comes with developing the full personhood of a child.
Way to go, genius. We already have trouble just getting kids to look at a book. And now you're giving them another reason to not look at a book, right? Oh, the author has to look like me before Huh? What is this crap about everybody looking like each other if they're the same race? I remember when that was racist. Not all black people look alike, Eric. Didn't you know that? Huh? Not all white people look alike either. Wow. All right. So let's face it. You're talking about too many white European authors, right? All right. Let's help me out here. Let's go to Kenya and find out what the best-selling book was in 1880. Can we do that? Can we do that? And we'll have it translated, and we'll see what that story was all about. Does that sound practical? What are we going to learn by that, Eric? Keep going. Cut 6.
You know, I think about oftentimes when I talk with the first deputy mayor when we just sort of downloading together, and I say that, you know, history is going to be kind to us. When you look at what we have accomplished in the city. And she said, we're not going to wait for history, Eric. We're going to tell our story now. We're going to tell our story now.
Oh, wow. Wow. When you're downloading with each other, huh? Downloading? Getting down? That's what I hear about you and members of your staff, by the way. Getting down a lot. Yeah, right. Want to disabuse us of that? Nope. Cut 7.
I cannot help believe that if the educational system were failing children of other ethnicities, you will see a total dismantling of the educational system. We were dispendable.
Say that again. One more time. What the hell is what?
His story is not
No.
I cannot help believe that if the educational system were failing children of other ethnicities, you will see a total dismantling of the educational system. We were dispendable.
We would dispendable? We would dispense of it, I think, is what he's trying to say. Eric, you're an ignorant fool, all right? And you're a race baiter, the worst possible kind. And through a fluke and through a lot of tragedies over the past 10, 20 years, you're the mayor. And you don't have a clue, do you? This is what you got. The race card, right? I remember when the race card was edgy. Now it's like lazy. It's lazy. Making a difference, right? Utilizing the resources you've got, which are enormous, right? I heard Curtis, who found this, by the way, actually listened to it, scrutinized it. A third of the city budget is for the schools. It's not about money. You got to look in. You got to look inward sometimes. You know, I remember growing up, actually, all this stuff about schools and, you know, failing schools. What about failing students? What about students who are disruptive in class? What about students, with the encouragement of the mayor, are getting high before, during, and after school? What about that? Is that part of the problem? You bet your sweet ass, Eric. Next.
His story is not our story.
Huh? What? Oh, this is his new thing. He's a feminist. He's a feminist, right? I think. Who knows what he's talking about? Cut 9.
I was the sole candidate on the campaign trail that said we're not removing school safety agents from our schools that protect our babies, that we heard from them over and over again that they wanted a better relationship with their school safety agents in the police department.
Wow, you wrote a profile on courage. What? Now, he has changed his tune on just about everything. Who remembers the campaign? What are you You're the only one. Well, I do remember the debate. You can't have them there. They'll feel like they're being policed. You can't have metal detectors. You can't have this. You can't have that. I was the only one on the campaign trail who said, so what? They're there. They've been there for decades. They're not leaving. One more here. Cut 10. I think this might just be the piece of resistance, as I like to say.
It is unbelievable that we believe children should only learn English in our school system. I mean, what are we thinking about? We have a city with all of these different nationalities, all of these different languages. The brain development of a child would acquire a different language at an early age better than waiting until they become an adult. And we're not leaning into that. That's the arrogance of a European mindset that the only language that should be known is one language, English. These babies should learn all these different languages.
Again, with the, just think about it. Did you take Spanish in school? Did you have it as an option? I took French, okay? Il faut oublier tout possible. We had a choice, French or Spanish. Now, all schools, including New York City schools, Chinese. You can pick up Chinese. My daughter actually, get this, and French and Spanish. You would think, Eric would think, oh yeah, your English is the way to go. What is he talking about? Now, to have a country at the same time, you have to have a few things in common. You got to have some commonalities. You got to have a culture. You got to have a border. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. So, feels good in the moment. Eric, that's what I'm talking about. Wait, that's good. We need these babies learning all kinds of languages, man. Yeah. I want to say an expletive, but I won't. Man, I don't like to talk about Eric too often because that's all that's going on. It's not like he's managing or great decisions. The city, in some respects, kind of is a lumbering, stupid machine, the government, right? And it just kind of keeps going and going and going and going and going. You need a revolutionary like a Giuliani or a Bloomberg, right, who can really tame that beast. The beast is doing its own thing. Eric is just having a good time. Can you believe this? I'm the man. Woo. That's it. He's having a good time. Doesn't mean anything. All right. With that, do I have to? Yeah, I think I should. We'll take a quick break. I don't want to talk about the Johnson Amendment, but it's very important. I don't know who wants to talk about the Johnson Amendment. It is a big deal thing that Trump is all over when it comes to religious freedom. Donald Trump was probably truly the greatest president since who was the one who brought about the Constitution? Who was the Jefferson and Madison? Watch that, Jeff. Yeah, those dudes. The greatest one when it comes to religious freedom. The greatest. And you know who knows that better than anybody? Oh, beloved Barbara. Be right back.
Greg Kelly. This is the Greg Kelly Show.
Yeah, instead of just racially baiting people, trying to, Eric could do a little bit of research, and the idea of going to 19th century African literature instead of, say, I don't know, Edgar Allan Poe, Shakespeare, and the rest, it could be a little bit tricky. Okay, so Eric doesn't like Europe. He doesn't like the European literature. So if we went with the African, let me see here. All right, well, we got to account for this. Poetry was big, poetry and folklore, transmitted orally for the most part. Written literature did not emerge until much later. And then African literature has been influenced by two great colonizing movements. Oop, there you go, colonizing. Let me guess. Do the Europeans have something with this? That of Islamic Arabs, okay, in the 7th century, and that of Christian Europeans in the 19th. Although the number of books written in African languages is growing, many African writers find a larger audience for works written in Portuguese, French, and English. Some of the most important themes in African literature chart the effects of European colonization. The earlier published works were by converted Christians express religious zeal and acceptance of Western values. You see, you might be in a bit of a bind, all right, with your game that you're up to. If you want to, it's a fun thing to say. Certainly when you got a compliant press, just kind of kicking back and accepting it. Certain things we're not going to accept. Another thing Eric has been preaching and actually has instituted, he had a chance to get rid of it, drag time story hour for kids. For kids. There was a time when we'd lock up people for sponsoring a drag time story hour. Now it's part of the educational institution. You have to have it. Otherwise, you're some sort of a bigot. Otherwise, you don't get it. I couldn't believe my eyes today. CNN. Who remembers Bernard Shaw and CNN? And who was that other guy? Lou Waters, I think his name was. They were like very, kind of generic, but reliable people. And they had information. This is a mission to destroy society and sexualize kids. So this is the Good Morning CNN show, the Good Morning America show on CNN. And they have this lady, I don't know what her name is. She's one of the many rotating people. It's interesting. You look at Fox, Ducey and Kilmeade have been there for 30 years. This person, I think, has been there for 2 months, but whatever. Whoever this CNN anchor is, she's talking to a drag queen in the morning about children and reading. And the white men, especially fat white men, because the soundbite they play is from some good old boy who's got a couple things going against him. Number one, fat. Number two, he's a man. Number three, he's Southern. Number four, he doesn't get it when it comes to having drag queens into school. Hit it.
I want to go to the states now because a lot of states are considering bills or have passed laws that have taken away some of the protections that the LGBTQI community had. In Kentucky in particular, there is a bill aimed at drag queens. The bill's author says it's only to regulate sexually oriented businesses and protect children from seeing sexually explicit things. Here's what one Kentucky legislator said about that move.
How can we be for somebody dressing up like a lady or like a woman and reading books to our kids? What in the world are we thinking?
What would you say to him and the author of the bill there?
It's a drag queen.
I would say that drag is not inherently sexual. I could be in a full-length, long-sleeved, hot pink gown reading a book about Dolly Parton, and they'll still think that something is inappropriate, although it is absolutely not appropriate. We exist as actors do in movies, where they can do rated R movies and they can also do rated G movies. But you don't take content from the rated G movies to say that the rated R movies are inappropriate for the actor who has been in both, right? And drag and
hey,
art.
Shut up for a second. You're the one who's so desperate to read to the kids. It's funny. It just hit me. I don't remember anybody ever coming to any school I ever attended and some stranger comes in the room and starts reading to us. That never happened. I had the teacher. I had some good teachers, mostly miserable teachers, to be honest. In first grade, I had Mrs. McAllister. In second grade, I had Mrs. Bowen. In third grade, I had Mrs. Keys. In fourth grade, I had Mrs. Gillespie. Oh, boy. Sixth grade, I had the great guy. Oh, man, I'm so grateful to this day. Fred Lapper, Stewart School, Long Island. Mr. Lapper. Man, he was a great teacher. So good. And really helped me out. You know what I mean? I was goofy in a lot of different ways. He really was great. Then I went to the seventh grade, and then you have, homeroom and this stuff. I had Mr. Rivideau. She was great. I had Mrs. McBurney. She was, goodness gracious, how the hell did Miss Schmidt, sadistic woman. How these people, my God, I had some really wacko teachers. Who was it? There had to be. I got to end on one good one. Who was another good one? Mr. McGowan was good at English, and so was the woman, Mrs. I can't remember now. All right, so none of them had any strangers come into class to read to us. Why are they so insistent about coming inside? Huh? Please tell me. CNN, aren't you going to ask that question? Go ahead.
Is this on the same level of appropriateness, and we don't deserve to be attacked like this?
Yes, you do.
I want to ask you about some of the history of this. The USO and the Red Cross hosted drag shows during World War II to help boost the troops.
For adults!
Thousands of black and white New Yorkers attended drag balls in Harlem in the 20s. They were really popular in the 50s and 60s.
Shut up!
They were called...
Not children. Not children. Knock yourself out. I've seen drag queens. One of the greatest dance albums of all time, RuPaul, Supermodel of the World. I danced my ass off to it. With adults, not kids.
You're listening to The Greg Kelly Show.
Hey, John McLaughlin, the great pollster, is joining us right now. John McLaughlin helped get Trump elected in 2016, did so much great work in 2020, and now, oh man, it is crunch time. John McLaughlin, welcome back. How are you?
It's great to be here because Trump's ahead in the polls today, so that's a good thing. So, but if he keeps on staying ahead after July 4th, I got a feeling Biden's going to want to put him in Rikers Island or something like that.
So he's on top. What is this nationally? What do we got going
nationally, here? By the way, he's heading all the battleground states. You had recent polls like Emerson, et cetera. He's ahead in the battleground states. And by the way, Biden, you don't see it because you're in New York, but Biden's spending tens of millions of dollars in these states with ads attacking Trump, and he's been doing it for months since we secured the nomination. So if you're in Philadelphia, if you're in Pittsburgh, if you're in Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, you're seeing all these negative ads, and you're staying with Donald Trump. And it's because people are fed up. I mean, the new poll that we'll have out tomorrow, I mean, you've got in the country right now, you've got 68% of all voters saying the country's still on the wrong track. You ask them if the economy is getting better or worse. It's worse, 62 to 31. 50% actually think we're in a recession because inflation is so high. 84% say they've been negatively impacted by inflation, 49% to the point where they're having trouble affording basic necessities. So Donald Trump's ahead in the polls. He's leading Joe Biden. And whether you have Kennedy in, whether you don't have Kennedy in, and now instead of, the Democrats keep talking about the battleground states, the Trump campaign's expanding the map. We're ahead in Minnesota. We're running even in Virginia. We're looking at New Jersey. We're looking at New York, and New Mexico and other states where we may be able to, get more voters to, give us their electoral votes. And right now you have the incumbent president, Joe Biden, spending a week at Camp David to get himself ready for a debate to the challenger that he issued. So that's how much trouble Biden's in. He wants to debate Donald Trump at CNN in Atlanta, where the moderators are known to be hostile to President Trump, no studio audience, and they can cut off his mic whenever they want.
Yeah, I really have serious misgivings about this debate and why he agreed to these ludicrous terms. How did this come about? I knew he said any place, any time, but I mean, I don't know. It seemed like the Trump team was talking to the Biden team, and they were both talking to CNN, and then this happened. I don't like anything about it. What is this a mistake?
No, it's not a mistake. And you know what? President Trump's prepared. He's ready. He's debated. He did plenty of town halls, and he's debated plenty of times over the years. And Joe Biden, granted, he'll be whatever he was on in the State of the Union when he did that really mean, nasty speech. He'll be back on whatever they had him up on. It's the voters want. By the way, we have a new poll that we gave to the Trump campaign today, where we asked them, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, what should Dana and Jake be asking about the issues you care about in this debate on Thursday night? And 49% of all voters said their first or second choice was high prices and inflation. 31% said the border and immigration. 21% said economy and jobs. 16% said Social Security and Medicare. Only 15% gave us their first or second choice defending democracy and January 6th, which is, I'm sure, what CNN will ask about first. And abortion was only 12% of all voters, their first or second choice. So the voters really have serious problems with inflation, high prices, the border and immigration, which is related to crime, and the economy and their security in terms of Social Security and Medicare. And that's what voters want to hear about. So we'll see what CNN wants to do. But I think it's an opportunity for President Trump to make his case of not just why he will be a good president like he was in his first term, but he'll be an even better president this time.
So fascinating. Look, he's solid on the issues, all that stuff. But, you see Dana Bash and the other in action. If they hear something they disagree with, they'll say it's not true and they'll cut the mic. I mean, It's incredible what they've done. So I am concerned that they're going to manufacture some sort of incident, something that will, look, they're not going to have a fair debate. And when the mic is cut and there's no audience, I mean, your options, you don't have as many tools. So I hope they're being very creative here. But I don't like it. Hey, by the way, the polls, you mentioned he's up in the polls. I don't hear too much about polls right now in the press, actually. Are they ignoring, they're downplaying it because they favor Trump?
Well, it's like the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Georgia's a battleground state, and we straightened out the election laws there. We did that. Late Speaker Ralston requires voter ID, or they passed a new law in 21, which Major League Baseball attacked them for and moved the All-Star game. But you need voter ID in Georgia to vote, whether in person or absentee or early in person. But the Atlanta Journal-Constitution puts out a poll today. Trump's up by 5, and they're saying, well, it means statistically it's a tie. It's like they can't admit that Biden's losing. So, we'll see.
Wow. All right. So look, when you poll people, do you call them on their cell phones? Do you call them on their landlines? I mean, nobody has a landline anymore. I mean, how do you get through to people? And what percentage? I mean, look, not everybody's happy to get a phone call from. I think they unfairly lump you in the telemarketer category. You're not a telemarketer, but I mean, number one, you call on the cell phone, and what do they do when you call them?
That's true. We got to play by the rules. And by the way, I went to Fordham University and I have an MBA there in quantitative methods. So the sampling, you have to be very careful with who you call and how you call. There's databases of tens of millions of voters in the United States. So we know who we're calling ahead of time because they're on a voter list. The only people we don't get on our calls are probably illegal immigrants that may, Biden's trying to get to vote. But when we call them, most of the calls are made on cell phones. And some are still made on landlines, but not that many. And a lot of times, if the person won't pick up the phone, we'll text them a survey that they could fill out online. So you have the technology has gotten more advanced, and it's getting harder to get people on the phone. But you build a model in the beginning of what a likely voter turnout would be in any given state, like New York or New Jersey, and then you have a voter list of all the registered voters in that state. And you call them and screen them and see if they're, see if they're going to make the call, see if they're going to vote.
And they probably get some of them get nasty, probably, right? They don't want to be bothered sometimes. Hey, what do you have a master's in? Quantitative what?
Well, it's an MBA, Master's in Business Administration, but there's a concentration in quantitative methods. At least in the 20th century, when I got my MBA, that's what they had. So,
all right. What advice?
You went to Fordham. You got these tough Jesuit priests that used to, it was tough in class.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I had like 2 priests in my entire time there. It was very secular when I went to Fordham. Very secular. Hey, Donald Trump went to Fordham for 2 years. All right, John. Final word. What would you? And I know you talk to Trump all the time, and he probably is getting more advice than he needs. But what would your final thoughts be as Donald Trump goes into that room? What would you? Or forget that. What would you tell him right now?
Right now, I mean, this is a contest between him and Joe Biden, and he has the better record and he has the more knowledge. But talk to the people out there. This poll that we did for the Trump campaign says the people want to know about what you're going to do to make their lives better. How are you going to solve inflation? How are you going to solve the crisis at the border to keep them safe? How are you going to keep our economy moving, grow the economy?
I got a problem. This is all great advice, but I actually, and we didn't play this yesterday. I have to play this for you, John. Listen to this. So do you remember that town hall Trump had with Caitlin Collins at CNN? It's about a year ago. Trump had a great night. He had a great night, and he was on, and the audience dug him, and it was great. The next night, this is what Anderson Cooper did. He apologized to the viewers for letting Trump talk. Listen to this, the Anderson Cooper apology from the next night.
45% of Hispanic voters prefer Biden compared to 39%.
No. The Anderson Cooper thing. Did you get the Anderson Cooper thing? All right, listen to this, John. Sorry about that. A little futzing around in the tech room. Go ahead.
Good evening. Before we begin with tonight's broadcast, I want to say something about what we witnessed at last night's town hall. Many of you have expressed deep anger and disappointment. Many of you are upset that someone who attempted to destroy our democracy was invited to sit on a stage in front of a crowd of Republican voters to answer questions and predictably continued to spew lie after lie after lie. And I get it. It was disturbing. It was disturbing to see and hear that person refer to a black law enforcement officer as a thug, an adjective he used many times to describe black men, and call Caitlin Collins, the moderator, nasty, which is what he calls any woman who stands up to him. It was disturbing to hear him speak so highly of QAnon conspirators and insurrectionists who assaulted police officers in our democracy on January 6th. And it was awful to hear him spread ridiculous lies about the election. And it was certainly disturbing to hear that audience, young and old, our fellow citizens, people who love their kids and go to church, laugh and applaud his lies and his continued defamation of a woman who, according to a jury of his peers, he sexually abused and defamed. As good a job as Caitlin Collins did trying to fact check him, it is impossible to fact check fully because he lies so shamelessly. Now, many of you think CNN shouldn't have given him any platform to speak, and I understand the anger about that, giving him the audience, the time, I get that. But this is what I also get. The man you were so disturbed to see and hear from last night, that man is the front runner for the Republican nomination for president. And according to polling, no other Republican is even close. That man you were so upset to hear from last night, he may be president of the United States in less than 2 years. And that audience that upset you, that's a sampling of about half the country.
All right, stop. And it goes on. He goes on to saying Donald Trump is running and he's running hard. But you heard the first part. They are apologizing. At one point later, it's a long speech he gives. You would have every right to never watch CNN again based on what happened last night. So they've doubled down on all their, we're going to cut the mic. We determine what the facts are. If we disagree with you, we're going to, like you saw Caroline Leavitt yesterday. That's what I fear is going to happen. It's not even going to be a debate. They're just there to shut him down.
Well, I tell you, he does that again. He's going to have, they do that. He's going to have to apologize again, and he'll have to apologize when we win in November. I mean, the propaganda is unbelievable and the bias. And what a contrast to what you have at ABC Radio. I mean, John Catsimatidis, you all there, you take any viewpoints and you let people speak and you air out both sides. And then you get CNN and their ratings dive because people know that they're full of it. It just doesn't, it's basically, it's like a communist country where you're entitled to only their point of view and not a real point of view. So it's I think President Trump should debate Joe Biden on your show on ABC. It'd be a great radio debate. You wouldn't have to worry about him standing or sitting. Well,
you're right about John Catsimatidis. The team here, ideologically diverse, and it's amazing, and it's actually not a crazy idea at all. I mean, the CNN thing, boy. Well, John McLaughlin, you're the best. We thank you, and good luck collecting all that data for President Trump. And thanks for being with us.
Well, we got to work hard. We can't take anything for granted until we win in November. So It's a lot of hard work ahead.
All right. Keep it up, sir. Many thanks. All right. Good guy. And Fordham. Yeah, we went to Fordham together. Well, he's a couple of years before me, but good times. Actually, I didn't like college. I really didn't like college. I wish I studied more. I wish I partied more. I wish I did a lot of things different. But I guess that's life, right? I'll be right back.
Greg Kelly. This is the Greg Kelly Show.
Hey, Hillary Clinton wrote a big op-ed advice to Joe Biden in the paper, in the New York Times. It's interesting how she talks about how Trump debated. Like, does this sound like Trump to you? Let's see here. In our 3 debates in 2016, he unleashed a blizzard of interruptions, insults, and lies that overwhelmed the moderators and did a disservice to the voters. He starts with nonsense and then digresses into blather. This has gotten only worse. I mean, we listen to those debates. That's not him. That's not how he talks. I mean, this is Hillary lying again. So what is she telling? She wants Joe to be forceful. All right, good luck with that. I mean, I'm just scrolling through it right now. Mr. Biden is one of the most empathetic leaders we've ever had. Listen to how sincerely he talks about women's rights, the struggles of working families. There's nothing sincere about this guy. This is useless. It takes up a lot of time. It's mostly about her. All right, Hillary, thanks anyway. I got to get out of here in a moment. So, Ken, hello.
Hi, I have a suggestion for Trump for the debate. There are millions of American families out there affected by dementia and Alzheimer's who would love to tell their mother or father, I love you, one more time. He should look Joe in the face and say, tell us what you're on, Joe, and you can finally help the American people for a change.
Wow. You're cracking yourself up. I can tell you got a smile going, right? Tell us what you're. Come on,
I'm not smiling.
That's a little bit funny. That's a little bit funny. I had it in my
family.
Come on. I don't know if that's going to work. I don't think we're going to. Hey, who knows what he's going to say? But all right, Ken, thank you very much. Who's got Alzheimer's in your family?
Both my grandparents did.
How old were they?
In the low 90s.
Low 90s. Wow. Yeah. What were they like? What happens when they get it?
They don't recognize you. They don't know who they're talking to.
Oh, heartbreaking, man. Wow.
My next door neighbor's got it.
Yeah. Really? How old is she?
Yeah. She's in her 80s.
How did I know it was a she?
I don't know.
My next door neighbor's got it. Well, all right, Ken. Yeah, no, it's bad. Maybe Joe is on something that could help. Thank you. Wendy, hello. Wendy, are you there? Well, never mind then. Robert in Suffolk, hello.
Hi, Greg. Every time Biden says Trump's a convicted felon, he should say Biden is an unconvicted felon and a traitor, too.
Yeah. Come on, Rob. You've been a hold a long time. That's the advice?
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah, you're a traitor, too, and an unconvicted felon. And then what? I don't know. And then they cut off his mic. That's factually incorrect. He is not an unconvicted felon. He is not a traitor. He's not been so adjudicated. Well, they cut off his mic. They're going to try to blow the damn thing up. That's what they're going to do. They're going to blow it up. And I don't know what it's like. I almost don't even want to watch. Strangely enough, I don't even want to watch. Should we watch? Yeah, we got to watch. Goodbye, Robert. Thank you. What else? My kids, 2 and 4. I am delighted with their progress. Absolutely delighted. It's amazing to watch them run around. And they're getting along better. They love my wife. They love me too, but boy, oh boy, mommy. It's all about mommy. One of them, I told you, speaks French and Spanish. Hey, the other thing, I ran into a little bit of a wall. I won't want to say too many things about what was going on, but had a little bit of a matter on my plate. And I Googled the matter, the issue, and I put in Bible. What's in the Bible about this matter? And then you know what pops up? 25 different verses that will help you. And I read them all. And you know what? It made me feel a lot better. In fact, it actually made me feel euphoric. It was like in real time conquering this thing that I thought was going to be, it was something that I carry around sometimes and it, rears its ugly head. Nothing bad, nothing too bad, but it's amazing what's in that wonderful book. And it's there for each and every one of us. So much time spent watching the TV and all that stuff. And the other day I saw a fact or a statistic. In 1990, 90% of Americans identified as Christian. Now it's down to 2/3. Quite frankly, both numbers to me seem shockingly high. Shockingly high. Now, when is the last time, like in conversation or walking around, that anybody brings up God, humanity, Christianity, Judeo-Christian values, the 10 Commandments, the Bible? Does it happen? I got to tell you, I was walking around. I think it's happened 5 times in my entire life. And I think 4 of them happened before I was 22, before I got out of college. So it's like the unspoken, it's the ultimate subject, the ultimate key to everything. Yet it's been so marginalized by our sick, corrupt world, hasn't it been? And it was really beautiful to hear Trump talk about it yesterday, to tie our crime problem and everything else that's going totally bizarre and wrong to religion kind of disappearing from our country. And it is. 2/3, I don't buy it. If you believe, and I know you do, you got to spread the word, get closer to the word, and don't be afraid to spread it. We need you. And him.